Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're on Masechtas Nazir daf Mem Hey. We are going to begin on Mem Hey Amud Aleph, about 10 lines or so down at the new Mishnah. Masnisen. Tigalachas hatahara ketzad haya. What did they do? Ketzad, how was it? And what exactly did they do for the purification process of cutting the hair of a Nazir? So Hayamevi Gimel Behemois. So as a person would remove the status of being a Nazir, he would have to bring 3 karbonos, namely chatas oil of a shlomim. V'shaychet as a shlomim, as soon as he does the shchita on the carbon shlomim, umigaleach alehem, then he is able to cut his hair at that time. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lezer Omer lo hay megaleach el al chatas. Not that he would be megaleach by the shlomim, but rather he would be megaleach on the carbon chatas. Why? Shachatas kodemis b'chol makom. Because the chatas comes first, as the Mefarish brings down the pasuk kedechsiv hikriv esas shel chatas rishonim. But Carmelon, it's brought down toward the end of Masechtas Zvachim. Well, daf tzadi. There feel chatas oiv kodemis afal oilos behema. That not only does a chatas animal come before an oilos behema, but even a chatas ov comes before. So because we find that, we also are going to say that when it comes to the din of a nazir, avkan ben nazir tehi kodemis kedishahi naz megoleach leha. So that's why he should shave on the carbon chatas. V'im gilach al achas mishloshtin yatsa. However, if he would have shaved upon bringing any of these 3 karbonos, he technically would be yaitze. Fine. Let's say he brings 3 animals, pirish, and he doesn't specify which one is for the chatas. So haroyal chatas, tikrav chatas. So these are all different types of animals. So we know a chatas is an akeva, it's a female animal. So it's a kivsa. So obviously that's the one which is a bashanasa is for the chatas. Oila tikrav oila. An oila is a keves, which is a male animal, which is also a ben shanasai. And l'shlomim tikrav shlomim. And a shlomim, which is an ayil, which is 2 years old, ben shtei shanim, so that's what's used as a shlomim. So even if you didn't necessarily earmark which carbon is being for which one, which animal, it doesn't make any difference because, again, a chatas is always in a keva, and the shlomim is an ayil. So there's a clear difference between a keves kissa and an ayil. Says the Gemara, Tanaban. The pasuk says in its entirety, v'gilach hanazir pesach ol moyed, that the Nazir will shave literally by the opening of the Oel Moed, by the in the Beis Hamikdash, as Rosh Nizro, his hair. The Lokach as Sar Rosh Nizro, he's going to take his shorn hair, V'nosan al ha'esh, and he puts it by fire, Asher Tachas Zevach HaShlomim. And it says Beferish that it mentions in the pasuk a shlomim. So v'gilach hanas pesach ol moed v'gaimer, and then it says b'shlomim akosim adamer. The pasuk says again it's a shlomim shenemar v'shachatu pesach ol moed. So quoting the entirety of the pasuk, the samach yado al rosh karbanai. You do smicha on the head of the animal. V'shchato pesach ol moed, you shech the carbon. V'zarku b'nei aron hakohanim es adam al mizbeach saviv. So this pasuk actually doesn't mention the shlomim, but the pasuk that we quoted before does say it's done by a shlomim. So, and it's done by the Pesach HaMoed. So ata oimer b'shlomim kasam adaber elo Pesach HaMoed mamish. So how do we know that we're talking about a shlomim? Maybe we're talking that it's supposed to be done literally by the Pesach HaMoed. It says in the Mefarish, al shlomim hu oimer shehim agaleach shari never kan Pesach HaMoed lo metzinu shar kodshim to unim Pesach HaMoed. We never find that anytime you bring a carbon that we require that has to be by the opening of the Oel Moed, el shlomim bovad b'shvil shehin daroin, because it's a gift. The shachtu pesach Oel Moed b'zman shu pasuach lo b'zman shu noyel. So we say that it's required. This is also brought down at the very beginning of Masechtas Eruvin, that only when the doors are open, that's when the carbon is allowed to be accepted. It says, it quotes the Gemara in the very beginning of Masechtas Eruvin. So again, how do we know that we're talking about a shlom? And maybe it's necessary that you actually have to do the shaving mamish by the Beis Hamikdash, by the Pesach HaMoed, and nowhere else. So Amarta, im kain derech mezayinhu. It's not practical to understand that he would actually be cutting his hair in that area of the Beis Hamikdash, because that's a bizayin. That's a disgraceful thing for him to do, to cut his hair in such a location in the Beis Hamikdash. So it must be it's in a different location, and therefore we're talking again that he does it at the time of the shlomim. You don't even need to come on to this, because the pasuk says lo saleh b'malois al mizbachi. So this is a quote at the end of Parshas Yisro, I believe, that you can't go up steps because you're going to end up showing your erva, and therefore instead the Kohanim have a keves, there's a ramp that goes up to the Mizbeach. So certainly when it comes to which is a Mizayin, in other words, it's a double pashut that we're not going to have this guy cutting his hair, because it's obvious that a person's not allowed to cut his hair in this situation, because the pasuk already says that we have to be careful, even if all you're doing is just walking, and it just happens to be because while you're walking, you're taking steps, and by taking steps, so your erva could be somewhat exposed. So that's one shot. Nusach acher, another interpretation, b'medrash b'parsha naso, dalad reish mem bet. Nazir. So it says that we cut the Nazir's hair. So im kach, if that's the case, Amr Tayra lo sala v'chulu kal v'chayim l'davar shlo kal v'chayim l'davar shlo yigalech pesach hamoed el b'shlomim kasam adamer. So it's different girsa, but it's the same idea. Is that it'll be a bizayin to actually cut the hair at that location, but rather it must be you have to go somewhere else. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer Inot Tzarech. Hari Omer, the pasuk says, "V'lokach es seir roish nizroi." They're supposed to take the hair of the head of the nazir, v'nosan al eish, and you put it by the fire. Or the entirety of the pasuk in Bamidbar, v'gilach hanazir pesach moed es roish nizroi. He takes his hair. V'lokach es sar roish nizroi v'nosan al eish asher tachas zavach hashlomim. Okay, so, which is the same pasuk we quoted before. So only someone who's missing taking the hair and then putting it on the mizbeach, on this fire. If actually it was done at the Ol Moed, it's mechusar taking it and then bringing it and then placing it down. Says the Mafar, She'im Yehi Megaleach HaPesach HaHechel. If you had to cut your hair there, Shemachusar L'kicha, it's missing the taking it, V'aval Azara, and then bring it to the Azara. I'm going to see the Tachas the Dayin and putting it again underneath the fire. Hilkach Enu Yochel Galeach Elo Batzad Hadud Shel Shlomim. So it must be that we put it by the Shlomim. Okay. Ikad some say Rabbi Yitzchak Omer b'Shlomo Kasam Adaber, Ato Omer b'Shlomo Kasam Adaber, in a way b'Pesach Ol Moed Mamish, Talmud Omer v'Lokach es Sar Rosh Nizro Makam Shahaya Mavashel Sham Hayim Megaleach. The place where you do the cooking of the Shlomim, that is where you will do the shaving. Abba Chanan Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer v'Gilach HaNazir Pesach Ol Moed Kolzman Shein Pesach Ol Moed Pasuach in Megaleach. So he said that the other drasha is as long as the doors are not open, then you're not allowed to cut. You actually have to have the doors open. So what do we learn out from there? Velo Nazira. So it says that you should, the Nazir will shave by the Pesach Moed, which is a Nazir, a man. Velo Nazira, but not a woman. Says the Mafar, Sha'ish Shalom Megalachas Ba'azara. A woman will not cut her hair there. El b'medina. She will do it outside of the Beis Hamikdash entirely. As we continue to Mem Vav Amid Beis, Shema Yizgaru B'Pirchei Kahuna, because it may incite or excite the Pirchei Kahuna if they would see her hair exposed and her cutting her hair, etc. So Amr Lo L'Dvaracha, according to you, Saita Teichiach. How about a Saita? That she goes to the Beis Hamikdash, T'chsibba b'hamid lifnei Hashem, that she stands in front of Hashem, and it says v'hikriv osa hakohen v'hamid lifnei Hashem v'lo yichashin Hashem yizgaruba. We're not concerned that maybe it will incite the Kohanim of the Pirchei Kahuna. So mohen zu kochelos upoikesas zu enu kochelas upoikesas. There is a significant difference. a woman who's a Nazira, she could dress as she likes, and she could wear nice makeup. However, Saita says the Mefarish, the hal nivula koi boy, she looks repulsive, ikivan de manuvula lo asile griba, because she acted in this way by secluding herself, so we don't allow her to be dressed in this manner, and therefore it's not going to be something which will cause any issues for the Pirchei Kahuna. Masha Einkein, when it comes to the Nazira, we don't want her to cut her hair at all, because that's, again, something in which the hair of a woman is something which is special and unique and beautiful, and therefore we have her cut her hair b'medina, namely outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, question 5. V'gilach hanozir pesach hamoed. Miachar pshita de'ein hanoz megleach b'pesach hamoed. We know it doesn't cut his hair there. L'may hilchos aksiv v'gilach hanozir gabi pesach hamoed. So why does it say pesach hamoed? It's not true. So either it comes to say shemegleach al shlomim. That means that you will shave upon the bringing of the carbon shlomim, because the pasuk says v'shachtu pesach hamoed, or debi'inan pesach hamoed pasuach be'es tigalachto. It just means that the doors have to be open in the oil moed. It has to be open at the time of the shaving. Okay. Question TA. No, TA20 we didn't do yet. That'll be in a second. TB 21. Eze carbon megimel hakarbanos shemevi hanazir biyom tegalachas tahira makri v'shayna. So what should he be makri first? So one says shlomim, and the other says the chatos. Again, it's just T. That was T. It was TB 21. TB 21, which is just a clean mission over here. TB 21. Either it's the shlomim or the chatos. Okay. All right. But again, if he did the kalachas on any of the three karbanos, then he would also still be yotzei. Okay, let's see the next mission. Mastisa. Hayanoitel sarosh nizro. Let's say he has his shon hair, and he puts it on the fire, mishalech tachas adud, and he puts it underneath the cooking pot. V'im gilach b'medina, that's what he does. He's supposed to take his hair and actually burn it. Now, v'im gilach b'medina, if let's say he would have cut his hair outside of the Beis HaMikdash, lo hay mishalech tachas adud, then he would not do that. He would not bring his hair to be burned. Before we continue, let's look at this Taisus over here. Actually, the one before that, we know that the Karban Shlomim can be eaten anywhere in the city. And if you would shave your hair all the way in Pesach Moed, but dude Shlomim boy, and you would actually have to burn it by the Shlomim somewhere else, they actually have to physically bring it over to the Shlomim. Okay. That's what that was referring to. And why by Nazir? So Taisa says over here, El Medina glachas b'makam sanua v'lo yiru pirchei kahuna. So if it's outside the Beis HaMikdash, then they would not end up seeing it, and therefore it wouldn't be as much of an issue. Okay. Fine. So let's see this Taisus. Im gilach b'medina sheish lo reshus l'galech b'makam sheyirtza. You can shave wherever you want. The afal gav dechsev el pesach al moed la pesach al moed ka'omer k'narshin b'gemara. So it doesn't mean that it actually has to be done by the oil moed. We said it's not possible, and it is. But if you would do that, then you would not end up burning your hair by the underneath the pot. If again you did the cutting of your hair outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Fine. So that's what it says. So this is only when it comes to the purification of the cutting your hair while you're being pure. Says the Mefarish, Amru, Shim Gilach B'Mikdash, if you shave there, mishalech tachas adud, that you burn it there. Avlo b'zman shegilach b'medina, but not if it was again cut outside. Says the Mefarish, Avlo b'galachas hatoma, afil b'zman shemigalech b'mikdash she'en mishalech tachas adud. Shel Ashim she'ein locha mishalech tachas adud el hatahar shebamikdash mei she'asan ziruso k'mitzvasai. So you only burn it when it's done properly, which is during the time of tahara. But if you were tamei, so then you were not going to burn your hair at all. Says the Mishnah, in other words, it doesn't matter, even in the base of mikdash. We actually will always do that. The only exception is if it's for Tumah and it was shaved outside of the base of Mikdash, which is mashma that he would hold that if it was even b'Medina, but it was for Tiglachas Tahara, then you would still take that and burn it Tachas Adud. Says the Gemara, Noitel Sar Roish Nizr, Tanu Rabbanim, V'yachar Kach, Noitel Es HaRoitiv. And then afterwards, you're supposed to take the liquid of the Shlomim, but Noisin, you take the roitiv, v'noisen al sar roish nizr, and you put it on the hair of the Nazir, knows the hair that was cut off. U'mishalech tachas adud shel shlomim, then it's put underneath the pot of the carbon shlomim. V'yimshulech tachas adud shel chatzas ashim yatsa. If you did it for the other ones, it's also yatsa, but again, the pasuk is talking about the shlomim. Ashim ben Nazir tahar miyika. What do you mean, ashim? So what do you mean? We don't. It's only by a Nazir Tameh. We already said when it comes to Tahara, the three karbanos is a chatas, an oil, and a shlamim. There's no asham, so how could it have mentioned over here an asham? What does that mean? So Amarava Hachakamer, the Nazir Tameh Mishaleh Tachas Adud Shel Asham Yatsa. That if he would put the hair underneath the pot when he was bringing an asham, which is only by Nazir Tuma, then he's also Yatsa. So how do this is all case? Rabbi Makra. The pasuk says, and we'll read this pasuk in its entirety. V'gilach Nazir Pesach Ol Moed. So the Nazir is going to cut his hair, not literally, but it says by the opening of the Ol Moed. That's Rosh Nizro. The Lakach Asar Rosh, and you take the hair on his head of the Nizr v'nasan ala eish, you put it on the fire. Asher tachas zevach hashlom. So asher tachas zevach hashlamim mizivcha ye tachtov. That means from the carbon itself, namely the roitiv, the juice. V'yimshilach tachas adud shel chatas yatsa. However, if you would put it instead of a shlamim, you would put it underneath the chatas yatsa. So my time, zevach l'rabos es a chatas v'asham. So even though technically we want you to do it by the shlamim, but if not, if you did by the other karbanos, you're also yatsa. But we learned that the gravy of the shlamim goes beneath the pot. So im kain lemekra miroitiv hashlamim my zevach shemaminal rabos chatas v'asham. The second drasha, that even if instead of using a shlamim you burned it by the chatas v'asham, that's also a fair way of burning the hair. Maybe it's just coming to tell you that if you burn the hair by a chatas v'asham and your yatsa, but nothing about the roitiv, that you're supposed to put the roitiv on the hair. So im kain lemeshlamim v'zevach. My zevach hashlamim shemamin tarti. Tanabanim. Hakol ha'imeshalchin tachas adud. We said you always will burn your hair under this of the Nazir, underneath this cooking pot. Chutz metami shigolech memdina. Except for when it comes to Tumah, the person who's a Nazir becoming Tameh, and he also cut his hair outside of the base of Mikdash, Nikvar, because in that situation he actually has to bury his hair. He actually has to bury it instead of burning it. Divi Reb Meir, Rabbi Huda Omer Tahirin, when it comes to someone who's Tahar, Kanu Kan, Hoy Mishalchen. What does that mean, Kan Mekan? So the Mefar says, Bein B'Mikdash Me Medina. Doesn't matter where you are, it depends on what you are. And if you're a Tahar, so in both situations you always burn it. Tamein Kan Mekan Lo Hoy Mishalchen. However, if you're a Tameh, even if it was done, you cut the hair in the Mikdash, still you're not going to burn it. We never will burn the hair underneath the cooking pot. Chutz min tar shemamikdash mnei shenasak mitzvasai. Because in that situation, did the mitzvah that you did the giluach b'makom in the b'mikdash kimitzvasai in the proper place, and therefore that's the reason why we do that. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's see question 6. The pasuk says, "V'nosano eish asher tachas zavach hashlomim mal nilman yutra de zavach." So what do we learn now? 2 things. First of all, that you will take from the liquid of the shlomim and you will put it on the hair of the hair that was cut off of the Nazir. And it also comes to include that if you didn't do it for the shlomim, if you burn the hair in the same fashion on a chatas or an asham, then you're also going to be yotze in that situation as well. TA, finally, 20. What do we put on the hair? What do we do with, what do we put on the hair? And the answer is the roitev shel shlomim. Ad kan.